Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Clutter. I'm your host, Margo, a professional organizer specializing in chronic clutter. And today I'm sharing one of my favorite methods to get things moving super fast in your home, to get that clutter out as quickly as possible. And it's called the Snowball Effect Method. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by clutter and don't know where to start, this episode is for you. This method works even if you've tried and failed before. In fact, it works especially well if you are stuck. So let's get started. The snowball effect is incredibly simple. Essentially, you start small and build momentum. This method was made popular by Dave Ramsey for paying off debt. He said, start with your smallest debt, pay it off fast, and use that momentum to tackle bigger ones. It works the exact same way with clutter. Instead of trying to declutter your entire house in a weekend and burning yourself out, or probably not even starting, because the thought of decluttering an entire house or even an entire room is so debilitating. I mean, for most of us, we get so overwhelmed and we don't do it and we procrastinate. The best way to start is to start small. Why is it the best way? Because it is the easiest, it is the most successful, and it is the least overwhelming. Why? Because motivation doesn't come before action. It comes after you take that first step. And having worked with hundreds and hundreds of women over the last few years, I can tell you that the hardest part is starting. And every single one of my clients and all the incredible women in our community, once they got started, once they took action, every single one of them came back to me and said, Margo, it was definitely not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I want that for you. I want this episode to encourage you to start, to build that momentum and to build that motivation. There's a lot of psychology behind this, right? When you prove to yourself that you can do something small, your brain will naturally want more of that success. And that is how we build that momentum to keep going. So let's talk about how you would apply the snowball method in your home. Step one, you want to pick your snowball. And you want to start with something tiny. I'm talking about a junk drawer, maybe a makeup bag, a simple kitchen shelf, maybe even your purse, or simply a handful of products or a handful of, let's say, cans. The key here is don't overthink it. Don't invest or spend time thinking, okay, do I do this small thing or do I do this small? No. My recommendation is maybe you're listening to this and you're in your home and you're currently standing in your kitchen. As you're standing in your kitchen, just choose something, right? Whether it's a drawer or cabinet or a handful of pantry items. Do not overthink this. I promise that by doing, things will get better, they will get clearer, and you'll be able to take on more. So pick a small zone that maybe has been annoying you, or in my language is an eye twitch space for you. And just start. Now, one of the things that I really have found that is incredibly effective for many people, especially if you're somebody who has ADHD, is to set a timer for, let's say, 5 to maybe 15 minutes, right? So set a timer, and I like to set a timer to prompt you to begin decluttering. So it would be 2 timers. So for example, you know that you have time maybe right now, or maybe you'll have time tomorrow for like 5 to 15 minutes at, let's say 6 p.m., right? Set an alarm in your iPhone to go off at 6 p.m., label it decluttering, and once you begin at 6 p.m., then set another timer for 10 minutes or whatever feels good for you to go off, and that is when you stop. This keeps the task doable and helps you beat perfectionism and procrastination. You are not, and this is very, very important, you are not trying to do everything. You are building momentum and you're building the habit, more importantly, of decluttering your space. Another helpful thing, and I consider this step 3, is to use the 3-box method. Have 3 containers ready, keep, toss, and donate, and don't obsess over each item. One of my rules of thumb when I work with women is if you are unsure, if you hesitate, if you're spending more than a second on an item because you cannot decide whether or not, you actually can't decide what to do with it, move on. Put the item back and keep it moving. What happens is you will go back to the same shelf, the same room, the same space, the same closet, whatever it is, again and again and again. And the more you do this, the more comfortable you're going to get with making decisions and, more importantly, letting go of items. So especially if you're brand new to this and if you're somebody who has struggled decluttering in the past or has even struggled starting, again, if it's an item where you're like, I'm not sure, put it back and keep moving, right? It's more about momentum and more about easy decluttering decision. So if it's a yes, it stays. If it's broken, trash it or recycle it. If it's useful but not for you, donate it. Again, fast, clear decisions. And it's really, really helpful to kind of have those 3 categories. It doesn't have to be bins. It could be boxes. Maybe you have some leftover boxes from Amazon. Maybe you have, I don't know, some bags, whatever it is, but kind of having those 3 categories prompt your brain to be like, okay, I have 3 decisions I can make. I either keep this item, I toss it, or I donate it. Step 4 is incredibly, incredibly important. This is so critical, and you really don't want to miss this step. Once you're done, finish the job. What do I mean by that? Get rid of the trash or the recycling and put the donations in the trunk of your car. Or if you're somebody that, I don't know, maybe a schedules pickup. I'm in New York, so we actually have organizations like St. Mary's that will actually pick up our donations. And then, of course, return the keep items to where they belong. Don't leave a sorted pile sitting there. That is clutter too. One of the mistakes that I see a lot of folks make is that they declutter, and whether it's donation or whether it's recycle, it kind of just sits there, right? Whether it sits in the living room or it sits in the garage, what you're really doing there is you're moving clutter from one place to the other. And if you want your brain to recognize, oh my goodness, like I'm decluttering and these are the benefits, right? And I completed the task, complete it from start to finish. And then step 5 is to repeat it again tomorrow. And again, when I say tomorrow, I don't, it could be 2 days later or next week, whatever your decluttering schedule is. And I have an entire Masterclass that's 60 minutes that teaches you how to create a decluttering plan. It really, you essentially learn how to declutter in 60 minutes. It's how I teach my clients and when I do one-on-one coaching. So I'll leave a link to it in the show notes and you can kind of just learn more. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me at admin@begoodtoyourselfbymargo.com. We have to build the habit of decluttering, and the way that we build habits is through commitment and consistency. So, of course, I'm incredibly proud of you for taking 5 to 15 minutes and starting. And then we want to rinse and repeat. And why it's called the Snowball Method is we start with little bite-sized tasks and then we kind of grow, right? So maybe instead of, and again, it's your comfort level, right? You can spend a month or 2 months just kind of doing these short bursts, right? And when you're comfortable, then move on to maybe tackling a bigger area or maybe investing a little bit more time when you feel confident, when you feel secure, when you feel motivated, right? Maybe you can tackle a larger area or maybe even declutter for a longer period of time. So pick something just a little bit bigger. And then what happens is every day your decluttering muscle gets stronger, the jobs get easier, and before you know it, the snowball turns into an avalanche of progress. And look, if you've been stuck, let me be clear. You are not lazy. You are not a failure. You are someone who needs a method that actually works for how life really is. And small wins matter. They create identity shifts, and they do, even if you don't feel it in the beginning, they do move the needle forward. Every time you finish one task, you prove to yourself, I am someone who takes action. I am someone who can do this. And maybe you develop an identity of like, I am a minimalist or I'm a tidy person. And by the way, you don't have to be a minimalist in order to have a clutter-free home. That is a myth. There are plenty of folks that want to be minimalists, and that's fantastic. But when we talk about clutter-free is incredibly subjective. So again, make it yours. The most important thing when it comes to a clutter-free home is that you walk into your space and you don't feel stressed and you don't feel overwhelmed and you feel like you can breathe. And if that means that you have an entire wall of books and you feel happy in your home, then that's perfectly fine. This is all about progress. Decluttering is never about perfection. And that progress starts with one drawer, one shelf, and one decision at a time. Now, of course, I want to know, what is the first microzone, handful of products, shelf or whatnot you're going to declutter? You can hit me up on Instagram at Be Good to Yourself by Margo. You can DM me. Of course, I am here to support you. I would love to know where you are starting. So I hope you found this podcast episode helpful. As always, thank you so much for listening. Good luck on your decluttering journey, and remember to be good to yourself.